As the world slowly begins to recover from the past year, which was terrible, not just because of COVID, but because of the many, many weak anime titles, there has been one shining light that continues to get stronger than ever. Demon Slayer the movie, Mugen Train. The bright flame of Rengoku has pushed the movie to heights never before seen within the realm of anime, surpassing Spirited Away as the highest grossing anime film in Japan and just recently the highest grossing in the world, with its international debut. And, of course, I had to see it in theaters, I felt obligated to. It's not often that anime comes to theaters, let alone such a huge and hype movie like Mugen Train. So I threw on my Tanjiro robe and treaded carefully into the theater of masked hooligans drooling over Nezuko and the Love Hashira, unaware that I was about to witness one of the greatest spectacles of anime to have ever existed. Yeah, it was awesome. Like any hype that was built up for it, it went above and beyond what I was expecting. And so if you thought that I was questioning this in the title, that I didn't think it was good, it's the complete opposite. I was a huge fan of this movie, and I feel like most people were. And I wouldn't even say that I'm a huge fan of the Demon Slayer series. I've read the manga, enjoy the anime, and I'm always a fan of Ufotable just because the Fate series that they've done is one of my all-time favorites. But I wouldn't say Demon Slayer is a particular favorite anime of mine. So the amount that I enjoyed this movie genuinely surprised me because I loved it. Whether it was because it was the first movie I've seen in theaters in well over a year, or just because it's objectively great. I'm going to dive into all of that, plus the movie plot and my critique of it today in this video. Before we get rolling though, just know that I will avoid major spoilers as I talk about the plot, so if you haven't watched it, you can still watch this video. And also, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. A huge chunk of my viewers aren't subbed yet, so it would help the channel out a lot. Let's go! The first thing that I want to mention about the Demon Slayer movie is how cohesive it is with the series as a whole. With such big shonen series, we see it with My Hero and its recent movies, as well as, all of the big three, but it's very typical that the movie will just be filler. It'll be an attention grabber just for a bit of money to promote the series. One of the reasons I have a very hard time watching shonen anime movies is because they always just feel like pointless eye candy. You know that everything is going to be exactly the same at the end because the studio is literally not allowed to make any canon changes. But the Demon Slayer movie is an integral part of the series, covering honestly one of my favorite arcs in the entire manga. And it covers the Mugen Train arc very well. Never once did I feel like this movie was dragging on. Literally, once you get to Act 2 of the movie, it is a train that never stops moving for 1 second until the movie ends in an incredible blaze of glory. No pun intended. What I also love about this arc is how great it works standalone, in a movie format, instead of as a season. It starts after the very slow end to the first season, where the general acceptance of Nezuko happens and Tanjiro's recovery from his incredible fight. And all within this single arc in the movie, it covers the character development of Rengoku the Fire Pillar, has an insane amount of personal growth for Tanjiro, and gives us enough fights to leave absolutely nothing left to desire at the end of the movie. And I think part of that is of course due to the insane animation. As I was saying earlier, Ufotable continues time and time again to get better, to just show off how great they are at animating. There are genuinely parts of the movie that can pass off as like a real, non-animated film, which you would expect to be jarring, but somehow these parts work so well together with the fights and the CG in the rest of the movie. I'm pretty sure if you looked at this whole movie frame by frame, not a single one would be lacking animation-wise. It was that well done. Just from the stunning, simple scenery like in Tanjiro's dream world to Rengoku's battle with such intense swordsmanship and flames going everywhere, Ufotable really crossed every T and dotted every single I when they were producing this movie. Not to mention, the soundtrack accompanying it all was also just beautiful. Being in the theater and hearing anime OST music on the big surround sound is already a great experience alone, but it made action scenes so much more intense and emotional scenes so much more emotional. I'd be interested to see how the movie felt when it wasn't in a theater if you were just watching it on your phone at home. I doubt it would have packed the same impact, but the movie was still great without all of that extra pizzazz. But with all those logistics out of the way, let's get into the meat of it, the story, how it was paced, and all of that sweet, delectable goodness. I said this earlier, but this arc, when I read it in the manga, was already amazing. It ups the stakes of Demon Slayer so much, and really kicks off the mood for the rest of this series after Season 1. Now, what I'm about to say is kind of a hot take, considering Rengoku is probably the best part of this arc in most people's eyes. But the part that I love most about Mugen Train is Tanjiro's character development. Because honestly, I was thinking about it, and the series could have probably gone without really ever addressing Tanjiro's dead family ever again and gotten away with it. With how large of a time span the series covers and how quickly it escalates in Season 1, I think that most of us probably did forget about what started this whole story and where Tanjiro came from. But this arc goes out of its way, on top of being chock full of stuff like an Upper Moon and Pillar all-out battle, to conclude a sub-arc of Tanjiro's that makes his character feel so much more wholesome and human. Of course, I'm not spoiling anything like I said, but the Dreamworld sequence really allowed us to witness, what could have been, what Tanjiro has really lost, and to what extent he will go to not just avenge his family, but to protect all he has left, Nezuko. The part where Tanjiro is constantly getting put to sleep and then escaping immediately after is easily my favorite part of the movie. The way that it shows his willpower and mental strength and fighting prowess really makes him stand out to me, more than the whole first season did, honestly. And Nezuko, Zenitsu, and Inosuke do take a back seat in this arc, definitely. Which I honestly think is good, just because it's already stacked to the limit with action and character development for Tanjiro and Rengoku. They all definitely get their moments though, enough to make me happy, and they were always involved, even if they were just smaller roles like comic relief or just covering side enemies or whatever. And now let's get into Rengoku, the real star of this arc. Again, this arc is really good standalone in a compressed movie format, and I think this is most obvious from the fact that Rengoku goes from a complete stranger to us to probably a fan favorite in the span of like 2 hours. Witnessing the ideals of a pillar, his backstory, and what has made him into the strong man he is now. And seeing this come to fruition in an all-out fight to finish off the movie is just untouchable. The way that parallels were drawn between Rengoku and Tanjiro is also just great. You can really see their relationship develop throughout this movie, and witness just how he imbues his will into Tanjiro. The way that both of their backstories were explored so deeply in conjunction with each other, as well as their overwhelming willpower to fight demons. The two of them fed off each other's strengths and really brought this movie up to unprecedented heights. I feel like if Tanjiro's backstory wasn't fleshed out, then it would feel like Rengoku was the main character of this movie, which I don't think most people would have a problem with, honestly. And of course, if Rengoku's backstory wasn't there, then it would definitely be lacking, but the fact that both were there and they worked so well together is certainly the biggest strength of Mugen Train. And yes, I will be completely honest with you guys, I shed a tear at the end. I think after seeing Tanjiro scream like that and the ending talk everything, if you didn't cry, then honestly you're either really impressive at keeping your feelings in, or you're heartless. It was like the ultimate catharsis. What began as a slow, sleepy train ride ends in this incredibly hype and emotional finish marked by the rising of the sun, as you wake up as well from what honestly felt like a dream. Like, this watching experience was so unreal, it really did feel like a dream when I came out of the theater and saw the light of day again. It was fantastic and absolutely worth the hype, especially when a film is hyped up so much like Mugen Train was, and with anime fans who tend to be overcritical sometimes, myself included. It's really hard to meet fan expectations. So to see the overwhelmingly good reactions was well deserved, truly. It makes me really excited for Season 2. I think the movie has genuinely converted me into a big fan of this series, and I can't wait to see how it'll continue to be adapted. So, what did you guys all think? I'd like to hear critiques if there are any. I know today I didn't really say much bad about it, so if you have anything, feel free to comment it nicely down below. This has been the Anime Culture Corner. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future in-depth show, manga, and character analyses.